Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Rustbelt Collector here, and today we're taking a look at the Spartan Collection Noble 6. Now, by and large, this is mostly just a repaint, but there are some interesting changes that they've made to this figure, both to make it a Noble 6 figure, as well as just some changes that they've made overall to the figure. We'll get into that, but overall, yeah, it's a standard repaint of the Mark V-B Spartan armor. So packaging-wise, this is wave 3 of the Spartan collection. We've already made it through 3 waves. That is hard to believe, but yeah, we're up to 3, and the packaging has stayed largely the same. Now, this is probably, at least for now, the only one of wave 3 that I'm going to get. I did have the opportunity to get all 4 of these figures. You have Master Chief, which is a slight repaint / new accessories, so he's more heavily weathered, more battle damaged, and he comes with the grapple. And then we have a Mark V-B variant, which I just wasn't a fan of the bright orange and purple. I like the sniper rifle, I could use that, but I just couldn't get past the bright colors. It's not my type of ideal Spartan design. And then we had Spartan Palmer from, I think, like Spartan Ops as well as Halo 4 and 5. Again, it just isn't my cup of tea when it comes to Halo. My Halo games are Halo 3, Halo 2, Halo ODST, Halo Reach, those things, and unfortunately I just couldn't pick this one up. I might eventually, but my rule of thumb when it comes to figures is not to buy anything specifically for a review, and that is really what I'd be doing if I bought any of these 3. Unfortunately, they would just be for review. They wouldn't be something that I was actually excited to add to the collection. But maybe someday, if you guys like spam me with comments saying, hey, review these ones, then you might convince me, because I'm not like against having them in the collection. They're just not ideal, not ones that I'm like actively hunting. But anyways, enough rambling. Here we just have the nice picture of Noble 6, the breakdown of what he includes, a little picture there on the side, nothing on the bottom, and Noble 6 right there, and a creepy looking alien reflection of a human being. Hello. Anyways, yeah, there's that. Let's break this open and take a look at the figure. So here he is out of the packaging, and we'll set him back there just for a moment as we take a look at the accessories. So starting it off, we have the Halo Reach assault rifle. I can never remember the exact designation of this, but it is the more broken down version. It's not as streamlined, very nicely detailed, very nicely sculpted, made out of that standard bendy plastic that these weapons are all in, just to avoid breaking. Now, something I noticed after the fact, so I'm actually recording this and I'm going to just insert it where it is appropriate, is that the new one, this is the Noble 6 assault rifle from Halo Reach, is actually significantly smaller than the Master Chief one. This is the one that came with the Halo Infinite Master Chief. Now, I don't know if that's going to be a factor in the game, or if that is just Jazwares correcting a previous mistake where this one is undersized and they got the size more accurate. Either way, it just is worth noting that this one is going to be a little bit larger than the previous version that we got. There is that peg hole there that you can, let's see, we can pop this little piece out, turn that little peg around, and it will hold the rifle very nicely. Not going to fall off, and there you go. When you don't want to use it, you just drop it and you can swap it back around. And it becomes slightly more concealed, just pegged back into his back armor there, which I really do. I do like that system that they've created for that. There's also a peg system here on his thighs for the Magnum. It can come off just like that, and that pegs on right there. So I do like that system. It's very nice. It's very useful for display and toy photography. Just, you know, a nice way to vary his weapon handling options. So there's that. And then, of course, you already saw the second accessory that he comes with is this nice Halo Reach Magnum. Once again, very nicely sculpted. A little paint stripe there. Looks really good. And yeah, I think we've gotten these both already in other figures. So again, this is pretty much a straight up repaint, repack, just It is what you would expect, though. This is Noble 6. We've already gotten a Mark 5B variant Spartan, so making Noble 6 is a logical progression for the company to do, and yeah, I have no issues with that whatsoever. So as for hands, he's got a couple different variations. Of course, starting off, he's got the 2 fist hands, which are pretty common with these figures. I think everyone pretty much comes with at least 1 fist hand. Then he has 2 open hands, or more relaxed hands. 1 kind of motioning hand, kind of like a let's go or that way sort of motioning hand. And then he has 2 grip hands, which are what comes on the figure out of the packaging. And these are the hands that are basically just his weapon holding hands. So they're the same, they are molded the same, and you can just, let's see, we can just we can just slide that in there like that. And there we go. He can hold that, he can raise it up to his line of sight, and it looks really nice, very easily posed in a good, like, action ready pose. Yeah, that was just kind of like a quick little throw together thing, and I think that looks great. Either, again, toy photography or, you know, posing him on the shelf with the rest of Noble Team, because we are nearing having all of Noble Team. So I'm sure in the next couple of waves we'll get George and Carter, and that will finish out the whole team. Oh, and June. I almost forgot my boy June. So we need 3 more. We're halfway done with getting Noble Team. And for the final accessory, you may not have even noticed that it was an accessory, but his combat knife is actually removable, which I absolutely love. We got this with Emil as well, a removable combat knife in a bendy plastic, once again, but not too bad. It doesn't fall out of the sheath or anything. It looks really nice, like on his armor. I think we need to see this on more multiplayer Spartans that we're getting for the game, because in basically every armor variation for Halo Reach, they all had combat knives, and it looked really nice. Some of them have different placements. Some were like down here, some were across the chest. Looked really cool. We definitely need that with future variations. But yeah, that's his last accessory. Now, before I get into the articulation, I do want to just kind of go over my initial issues that I'm experiencing with this figure fresh out of the packaging. The first 2 are kind of just personal preference, really, or maybe some people wouldn't really care, but these first 2 I do care about. And noticeably, this helmet is a different tone of gray than the rest of his armor. I'm not sure how that happened, whether it was just because this is molded plastic and this is painted plastic, or what it could be, but this is like a light gray, and this is more of a dark gray. That's definitely not lore friendly or how it is in the game. It just happens to be the way that they chose to represent it. Now, of course, that might not be a big deal to everybody. Maybe it's just me being too nitpicky. I mean, regardless, your Noble 6 character is the player character, so I don't know many people who ever played the game with this specific armor set. In fact, personally, I was looking forward to them continuing the Halo Reach armor set so that I could eventually piece together my own version of Noble 6 that would be more in line with what I customized my armor to look like. However, if you want a canonical Noble 6, this is his armor set, and that helmet just kind of stands out for some reason. And the second thing is also in regards to the helmet, actually. It comes down to the visor. This is the previous Mark 5B from Wave 1, and he's got that beautiful, like, Joyride Studios chrome visor, and they've swapped it out for a matte finish visor. That is pretty much all of Wave 3, in fact. They all have the standard matte finished visors. And I gotta say, I'm not terribly fond of that. I know that that probably comes down to cost. It's probably more expensive to do them this way, but I really do like that chrome visor. I think it adds such a unique, nostalgic touch, harkening back to those old Joyride figures that I do love so much. Now, if you wanted to, you probably could find one of these guys still on shelves with the chrome visor, get a little X-Acto knife or something right up into that crevice and pry that visor out. Pry this visor out and swap them over, as long as the glue isn't too hard. It's hard to say, but you could do that if you were so inclined. I might actually end up doing that, but it's just a shame that we would even have to, because I think this was one of the standout features of the Spartan Collection line, was that chrome visor. And Yeah, I'm sorry to see it go. Maybe it's just Wave 3 that they did it on, but I haven't seen any announcements for future figures with it. So if it's just the early figures, that's a shame. And the final issue is one more so with quality control. I'm a little bit worried about the quality control on this figure. Overall, the plastic feels okay. His joints aren't shaking loose or anything. But I noticed getting him out of the packaging, and I saw some people over on Instagram talking about this, his joints, especially his knees, are really rubbery. I mean, these are really rubbery. This is just insane. Compare that to Wave 1, there's nothing. These are like hard plastic joints. You kind of got to ratchet them around. They're a little bit tough, actually, which I would prefer them to be too tough rather than too soft. But yeah, you're not going to get any side to side, a little bit of wiggle there just because of the peg system, but nothing compared to this guy who apparently, this guy apparently did not drink enough milk. He's got some loosey-goosey bones going on in there. And yeah, I don't know if it will actually pose a problem for the joints long term, whether that will break down, easily break, or anything like that. But I hope it doesn't. I'm not necessarily writing it off as a con. I'm writing it off as something that is a little alarming, and we'll have to wait and see what that means for... This guy just doesn't want to stand up. But we'll just have to wait and see what that means for the line as a whole, if these joints are going to continue being this loose, or if that's just a one-off thing that happened with this wave. I know with how overseas things have been, and just like shipping in general has been very difficult, so I totally understand if there's, you know, quality checks that they weren't able to make before these went into final production or something like that. And given how good Jazwares has been in the past about fixing quality control issues, I'm trusting that in the future these will be corrected. And I can also understand that it might have to do with the price point. These are $20 figures, and I could understand if certain quality control issues are occurring because of that price point. And if they increased the value of these to $22.99 and we got a little bit more assurance of quality, then I would be a-okay with that. Like there's really no issue. And you know, if they had a figure like George, who is going to supposedly be a larger character, or at least canonically he should be a larger character, if that had to be a $25 figure, you would get no complaints from me, because I would definitely be willing to make a sacrifice for an accurate character with good quality. So I would just say be aware of those things. It's not that these are terrible figures or anything like that. I still love the line. I'm still a huge fan of Jazwares and what they're doing with the Halo line, and so I just wanted to make, you know, new collectors, people that are going out looking for Wave 3, wanted to make them aware of what's going on with these figures so that they're not like, oh, what the heck, when they get this out of the packaging. And yeah, so there's that. Now let's take a look at the articulation with this figure. Now, of course, these two figures are the same in terms of articulation. I know this guy's just a little bit loose. This is like a Wave 1 release before they did kind of like a re-release where they fixed his joints. So this guy is really loose, but yeah, the articulation is the same and all the armor sculpt is the same. The only thing that they did is they removed these shoulder pads and filled in where those peg holes would be on his shoulder, and that's canonical because in canon, Noble 6 has no armor on his shoulders. He just has the standard bicep armor, so kind of a fun little fact, I guess, if you're interested in Halo lore. So up at the top here we have I think it's a swivel and a hinge, so he can look side to side. Then he can also hinge down and hinge, well, that's about as hinged up as you're going to get him. So you can hinge it down to there, hinge it up to really just there, but he can look side to side any way you want him to. Down at the shoulders, you kind of almost have a butterfly. I think it might be the semblance of a butterfly joint, but you do have a swivel all the way around, a hinge up to just past 90. Then you do have a bicep swivel. We can get that articulated. There we go. You have a bicep swivel, and then you also have a double crunch elbow, which gets you past 90. And then all of the hands, all the interchangeable hands, they do come out pretty easily, just like that. They go back in pretty easy. They are all hinge and swivel, so swivel, and then an in and out hinge. And both of them are in and out hinge. That's one of the things that I also wish they would tweak, was making the right hand an up and down hinge, just because that is so much more desirable for weapon holding. It would allow for a lot more dynamic poses, but It is serviceable as an in and out hinge, but not ideal. At the torso you have a ball joint, so he can hinge all the way around, or ball joint all the way around, just like that. It's a little bit ratchety, but I would rather it be that way than too loose, so that's probably some sort of ratcheted ball joint in there that is allowing it to hold its position a lot better and will have more longevity in terms of wear and tear. At the hips we have a ball joint and a thigh swivel, so you can get out to there, you can get forward to there, and then you can get back to just about there. You can kind of kick it out a little bit and get a little further back, but not much. Then you have double jointed knees. These are the new knee joints, so that is one small difference between this one and the previous figure. This is a more exposed knee joint, I feel like, whereas on this one it was a more rounded knee joint that kind of masked that it was a joint a little bit better. Out of the two, I would prefer this one, not just because of the plastic quality, but just because of how well it was hidden within the figure. I really do like that design, but they've gone ahead with this one. I think this is the one that they're going to be sticking with going forward. Then down to the ankle you have a hinge and a rocker, so hinge forward, hinge down to a point, and then you can rock it side to side, as well as a little toe swivel there. Not terribly useful in terms of articulation, but good maybe if you want to do like a running pose or something like that. Still very cool, very nice articulation overall. I would say that this figure is a very solid representation of what the Spartan Collection is. Again, the QC issues, I'm a little worried about that. I'm a little worried that that might be a new trend with these, but we'll have to wait and see. I didn't get any of the other figures, like I said, so I don't know if Master Chief is going to be like this. I don't know if the other Mark 5B is going to be like this. I don't know if Captain Palmer is going to be like this, so we'll just have to wait and see. I trust Jazwares and Wicked Cool Toys with their hard work that they're putting into this line, so any small nitpicks, any issues that I notice, I don't hold it against them, because I know that they're going to, work to make a good product for the fans, because they themselves are fans, and that is what makes a solid toy line at the end of the day. So all in all, I think this is a really nice version of Noble 6. It's pretty much the only one that we'll ever see in figure form. Mega Bloks and McFarlane both did Noble 6 as this gray iteration. This is like the default Noble 6. This is the canonical Noble 6, so still very good representation of it. Again, a few little nitpicks here and there, but I think overall it's a very solid interpretation of the character, and it will look really nice beside the other members of Noble Team. Speaking of Noble Team, here he is next to Spartan Emil. I'm just going to straighten up his legs here just a bit so that the height is pretty accurate. They're all the same height because they're all Spartan 3s, so that definitely adds up and makes sense. They'll look really, really nice together. I didn't have Cat on hand, but they all scale together perfectly. We're going to supposedly, I'm quoting a rumor here, but I'm hearing through the grapevine that George and Carter will be in potentially Wave 4 and 5, and then I'm assuming June will be Wave 6, so we don't have to wait that long, because these waves have been coming out pretty consistently, and they can pretty easily be found in stores. From my experience, at least, I've found pretty much every single one of these in stores eventually. Sometimes it does take a while, but eventually. So yeah, these guys, I'm excited. We'll have the full Noble Team pretty quickly, and that is going to be really nice for, I think, every Halo collector out there. Now, apart from Emil, here he is next to the McFarlane. This is like the 5-inch, roughly, McFarlane Spartan line, so this is Master Chief. Next to him, that's kind of a comparison between the two lines. I don't have any of the Mattel figures to compare them to, but I think that they would scale better next to those. And of course, here he is next to a Bionicle Borak Cal. And of course, you have to see this comparison because everyone needs to know how these scale in their collections. So there we have it, the new Wave 3 Noble 6 from Jazwares and their awesome Spartan Collection line. Here's just my quick little lone wolf pose. As you can see, these guys are pretty posable. The armor does impede certain elements of posability. Like, I don't think that he can really get into a perfect, kneeling position. That's also partially due to the way the knee joints are. But again, these guys are still very posable, very displayable, and I think they're really awesome as like the modern iteration of Halo figures, and I'm still excited to see what they do with this line. But there's not much else to say about this one in particular. So as always, thank you for watching. Check down in the description if you want to follow the link tree there to my Instagram. Follow me over there for toy photography, toy news, you know, just whatever random stuff I decide to post over there. Also, you can follow that link to Entertainment Earth in case you want to order or pre-order any action figures. It helps with the channel if you use that link, so I do really appreciate that. But as always, thank you for watching. Have a wonderful evening, noon, or night. Be kind to one another, and I'll catch you all in the next video.